Hi, this is A New Nigeria with Wale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine the strategic issues bedeviling Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer practical suggestions on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. Today's episode promises to be engaging and exciting. My guest is already here to assist me in doing justice and also give depth and clarity to the topic of our discourse. As always, it's going to be evidence-driven, honest, bold, and a no-holds-barred conversation. So get ready as we begin in earnest. And now, let's get on with it. Today, it's a presidential series, and we're looking at, assessing the preparedness of presidential aspirants. The job of government is governance, and governance is serious work, which requires certain specialized skill sets. Elected and appointed government officials must be the best among us for this country to fully maximize its God-endowed potentials. Those who are appointed into high offices in the private sector are mostly either headhunted or selected through a rigorous recruitment process. These are subjected to a high-level and multi-layered assessment process that examine their qualifications, suitability, and preparedness for the office they seek. Interestingly, in most advanced democracies, the same process applies to political office seekers. Sadly, those who vie for political offices in Nigeria are not subjected to these standards. Consequently, we have had, especially since 1999, persons occupying key political positions with little or no understanding of the purpose of the offices they seek to occupy and the weight of responsibilities imposed on them by the Constitution and the electorate. Today, we have one of the candidates for the presidency in 2023 elections here with us. We shall be asking him some questions based on the fitness criteria templates that I developed to assess his fitness and suitability for the office of President of Nigeria. We'll take this short break, and when we return, we'll get right into the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Good afternoon, Mr. Dumebi.
Good afternoon, Lauda. How are you?
Nice to have you again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, just a brief introduction. Mr. Dumebi Kachiko is a businessman and the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress.
Congress.
So he's here on the program for the second time, I think. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Now, before we get into the main reason why you're here, like I said in my intro, I've observed, like most Nigerians, some goings on in your party in the last couple of months. First, the chairman came and said you were removed. Later on, a group of leaders of the party came and said they've removed, or the tenure of the chairman or the National Working Committee has lapsed.
Yeah.
And then eventually, back and forth. But interestingly, I saw INEC when they published their list of candidates recently, your name was there. So, in a summary, what happened?
It's very simple. The tenure of the last NWC lapsed on August the 28th. The immediate past chairman, Ralph Wons, who had been there for 17 years, had said to many of us, to all who cared to listen, that he was ready to go. 4 days to the end of his tenure, he hurriedly organized an illegal convention to extend his tenure by 1 year. The state chairman, who was supposed to be a part of the NEC, went to the party office that day. They were refused entry. They saw what was going on. We called the attention of the police. The police stormed the place and said, what's going on? Put a stop to this. And they had gotten someone who claimed to be, said it was from INEC, to come there to witness the proceedings. And they said that was a convention of the party. And that they had given him a 1 year extension. Of course, the party officials, party members were all kicked against that and said that was illegal. There was no due notice given to INEC. The meeting that was supposed to have been held that day was called at the instance of the state chairman. Okay, and so he wanted me to side with him on the illegality, and of course I refused. I'm not taking sides as presidential candidate of the party. It's not about taking sides with the state chairman or with Wonsu. I took the side of the constitution. tenure has
It's
lapsed.
part of the due, your side is on the due process.
Correct, yes. The tenure has lapsed and you just have to go. Yeah, people pleaded me and said, oh, this man's an Igbo man. Like, it's not about being an Igbo man. The issue is that his tenure has lapsed. He's been there for 17 years and we cannot support an illegality. And I just said the right thing has got to be done. So, I mean, INEC came out, saw what was going on. INEC sided with the state chairman and said the man's tenure is over. And that in the lacuna and the void that is there now, the authority INEC now recognizes is the BOT chairman, the person of Senator Patricia Akwashiki.
Okay.
Right? So, but knowing this, all they were upset, he and his ilk, and they said trying to damage me in the media, said I was expelled, said I was suspended. Obviously, someone who has no standing, no basis, is just doing all those things, thinking that they were damaging me in the media. But like I said to everyone, I allowed that happen because in politics, especially in a race like this, whatever keeps you in the media and the eyes of the people, it's important. So for us, it kept our party in the eyes of the media. You understand?
That's a very dark. But I agree with you. I agree with you because I'm sure a lot of people, you know, I mean, it was all over the media, different electronic and print media, and social media.
Exactly.
You know?
Wherever, so people who didn't even know our party before, because you know how people would respond negative media. People now know our party. But then what happened when INEC said, oh, ignore those people, this is the position and all that stuff. Again, he put them in a back. But at this point, the issue, they are no longer an issue. The party is trying to come together. We kickstart our campaigns on the 6th of next month. Okay. And we welcome them to join if they so choose to join. It's a big family. The Edis family is a big family. So welcome them if they so choose to join, as long as they adhere to the constitution of our party.
Great.
So that's the issue.
Great. We're not going into that. I just needed to clarify because, I mean, it would be remiss of me not to touch on that. Why you are here, Mr. Kachukwu, is basically, like I said in my introduction, to assess your suitability and preparedness for the office, very high office that you seek. It's a template developed for all presidential and governorship candidates, you know. As many of them as I can lay my hands on. Apart from that, I've also given this to the public, you know, private sector, NGOs, professional bodies, electronic and print media to organize maybe collaboratively or individual, you know, sessions for you guys. So, like I said, it's a 7-step, you know, interview process. So you have governance, moral questions, governance questions, psychological questions, leadership questions. So we can't go into all of that, but we just take brief here and there, you know, in the time that we have. I would appreciate you if you can give us short responses. So we're starting with governance, fitness, to test your fitness for governance, if you even understand what governance is all about. Number one, do you believe Nigerian president should have a presidential air fleet?
Absolutely not.
Okay, why?
Our country can't afford those trappings of office. There are countries that can afford that. The economy supports it. In the eyes of the world, we are the leaders of the black race, in quotes. In reality, we are not. We are nowhere near that. Our economy is floundering, and we therefore can't support such trappings of office.
Second question. If you become president, will you patronize made in Nigerian goods, specifically automobiles? Or would you buy innocent vehicle? Or would you charter all these foreign SUVs, 200 million, 300 million?
It's important to patronize local made goods.
Why?
That's very important because you are supporting the local industry, especially for job creation, and these people pay taxes.
Exactly.
One thing I want us to be careful about is that I don't want to give look good answers. I want to give practical and solid answers. So I will patronize local made vehicles as long as the vehicles are properly made. You don't want the president of Nigeria to be in a vehicle that breaks down because it's not been properly made. The good thing is that take Innocent for example, they are making extremely good vehicles. I'm happy. A lot of government parastatals, the military, a lot of people are using their vehicles, you know. And there are other, beyond Innocent, there are other companies right now, you know. So I believe we should support them. I believe we should encourage them.
Fantastic. Do you have a concrete plan for revitalization of our public educational institutions, primary to tertiary? Do you have a concrete plan?
Absolutely. the challenge, we'll have to deal with the problem before I talk about solution.
Yeah.
The biggest problem we have to fill sectors in Nigeria is the individual. We have people who man these sectors who are disconnected from the reality of those sectors because they don't know anything happening there. So imagine a minister of education, a commissioner of education whose kids are not in public schools. Because his kids are not in public schools, he does not know the reality of what goes on in public schools. How do you then address this? Because it's a major problem. I am proposing something called the Nigerian Patriot Act. It simply states that every public official, every director of a company whose operating license derives from government, their family members must utilize public schools. They must utilize public hospitals. When they travel within Nigeria, they must travel by road unless it's an emergency. They cannot have generators in their houses. They cannot have boreholes in their houses. This means that the poor, the leaders, the rulers get to experience what the poor, the masses are experiencing in Nigeria. That's how we solve that.
Great. Like I said, there are many questions. We can't possibly go into them. I believe you have a solid, concrete plan for poverty eradication. Yes or no?
Correct, yes.
Okay. What's your view on capital punishment? What's your view? Some have proposed, myself inclusive, we've proposed having a national crimes register. Everyone who's committed a crime. In other advanced economic societies, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So we need to have a national crimes register. What's your view on that? Secondly, tied to that, to bringing down this space of wanton insecurity, some have also suggested setting up a special crimes tribunal for special crimes such as kidnapping, banditry, terrorism. What do you think? Briefly.
I think the police have been trying for the last 1 decade to have a crime register, have a database of all crimes that have been committed for the last 40, 50 years. I think it's a mammoth undertaking, but it must be done. I don't know how far they have gone now with doing that, but it's something that they're trying to do.
Special crimes tribunal.
Special crimes tribunal. I think we have too many tribunals in Nigeria.
You think so?
I think what we need to do, we need to employ more people in the justice system.
Fantastic. We'll take one more on this governance shortly, as in very briefly. What's your view, and in what time frame, if you're going to scrap the fuel subsidy, do you agree with it? If you're going to scrap it, in what time frame, if you become president, would you scrap it?
I think the first subsidy should have been scrapped last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Fantastic.
So it's not something, it's a scam, okay? It's a scam that a few elites are perpetrating.
Especially if you consider the colossal sums.
Yes.
This year is 4 trillion, next year is 6.7 trillion.
It's a scam a few elites are perpetrating against the rest of the masses. So it ought to have been scrapped. That money should be used for social infrastructure.
Great. Let's test your psychological fitness. Are you fit psychologically to be president of Nigeria? What's your view on life? In one sentence, what's your view on life?
I believe life should be lived to the fullest. I believe you should hit that ball as hard as you can. Don't waste any opportunity. Go for it. Okay.
Someone who heard this would say, you're saying, live like Hollywood stars, you know, like the basketball stars, like Mayweather, buy cars, you know, just live large.
Live life to the fullest means that every God-given potential you have in you, harness it.
To the service of yourself.
To the service of mankind. Great. Service of self gives you nothing. To the service of mankind.
Number 2, what's the purpose of wealth?
Purpose of wealth is to serve humanity.
Okay. How much of money does an individual need to live a comfortable life for his or her life?
Well, I believe that you need 60% of what you need to pay your basic bills. Why I say 60% and not 100% is this. The remaining 40% ensures that you continue to strive, to work hard.
A rider to that, do you believe in accumulating wealth for your children and their...
My late father...
I'm sure you understand why these questions are important.
Of course,
Nigeria is prostrate because people are stealing money they do not need and keeping it for their descendants.
Let me tell you this. My late father was a federal high court judge. When he passed on, I inherited from him a gun.
Wow.
One of his guns. I inherited one of his guns from him, and I think I inherited a walking stick
He didn't build any houses or cars or money? He didn't have money in the bank?
I didn't. So my older brother, Dr. Kachiku, inherited a house.
Okay, that's traditionally. Okay,
that's
culture and all of
yes,
that. Okay.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
But what he believed that, and what I believe that any father should pass on to his son as a legacy is good values. That's what I believe.
What about education?
Yes, that's part of good values.
Good values, great, great. So because of time. What's your view on those who plunder our nation's resources?
They are poor in spirit.
They are what?
They are poor in spirit. So
they have a poor spirit.
They have a poor spirit. It comes from a feeling of inadequacy. It comes from a feeling of not understanding or being afraid of tomorrow. So they've come from a poverty-stricken background. They believe that I have to acquire so much, steal so much, so that I don't go back there anymore. The mistake these guys make is the fact that they don't understand that if you make society work for anyone, you don't have to have that fear that you go back there again.
Fantastic. Would you support payment of life pensions for ex-public officers, president, governors, National Assembly members?
I support paying an adequate salary to public office holders.
Because why some people, sorry, the argument for why some people steal?
I support paying an adequate salary. I support a pension that's at par with the pension that is paid to
every other civil servant or public official.
Correct.
Nothing extraordinary.
I don't support State House of Assembly creating these bogus pension
laws
packages.
That you must have a house in Abuja, a house in Lagos.
If you don't have those things for people who have worked for 30 years, you shouldn't have that for having held an office for 8 years. 8 years,
fantastic. Last one on psychological. Should a public official profit materially from serving in government? Either civil servants or elected officials?
No.
So let's move to leadership fitness. What's your understanding of leadership?
I believe leadership is a covenant or a contract between he who leads and the person he leads. I believe it's someone saying, I trust you to take me in the right direction. I trust you to protect me. I trust you to look after me. I trust that whatever you do will serve the generality or the best interest of the greater.
Great. So we'll take a pause on this leadership. We'll come back to it. And we'll take this short break. Now, we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Kachuku. Please stay with us. Welcome back, Mr. Kachuku. Still on leadership fitness. Is being a leader, a political leader, is it a right or privilege?
It is a privilege, but on the other hand, you have to understand that we can't blame these people who lead us for what their followers do. We have a followership that is pauperized in Nigeria. And because they are pauperized, they do those things just to get ahead. Okay.
Brilliant. I think the popular cliche in our environment is that poverty has been weaponized.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now, who are your role models in leadership? Do you have any?
Yes.
Tell us.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. He was not a politician.
He was not a
politician. He never held government office.
In everything you've tried to describe today, talking about leadership and governance, why Jesus Christ is my role model is because as a leader, he made the sacrifice for mankind. And that's the most important attribute of a leader, being selfless, being able to sacrifice for those you serve.
Great. What book, and I don't want to talk about the Bible, what book on leadership, government, or politics have you read in the last 6 months?
I will tell you this. The most important book on leadership is actually the Bible. Every leadership book you read out there derives from principles you will find in the Bible. There's no leadership book you find out there that the key principles you will not find in the Bible. There's nothing in life, absolutely nothing in life.
I am inclined to agree with you. That is a fact because I'm studying the book of 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st, 2nd Chronicles. Those are awesome books on leadership. But in contemporary times, Mr. Kachuku, what book on leadership or government or politics have you read in the last 6 months?
I tell you this again.
Yes.
Because you see something, and I say this to a lot of, I've gone to a lot of these seminars, and I say this to people. I said that for everyone's experience, for my experience as a leader, you will find that my experience is born out of my understanding, my personal experiences. But my personal experiences derive from my understanding of my maker. And that's why I point everyone to my maker, because everything you need to live a peaceable and godly life is right there.
Okay, since you won't tell us what contemporary book on leadership you've read, I'll recommend one. I actually wanted to bring it, but I think it's in the car. I'll recommend one, From Third World to First. That's a book by Lee Kuan Yew, the great leader or builder of modern Singapore. It's a textbook, a masterclass. It's a book I've read on leadership, on politics, on government for every aspiring politician, whatever the position, local government, whatever. It's a book I would strongly recommend. Last point on this one: what is your major criteria for assembling a team, if at all you need a team? You seem to me like a very smart guy. So maybe you don't need a team. You know everything. You can do everything by yourself. Yeah. But should in case you are on the other side, you think you need a team. Because Jesus Christ did have a team.
Yes, of course.
Since he's your mentor. So what is your criteria in assembling a team? And do you even need a team anyway?
Yeah, of course I need a team. So my major criteria in assembling a team is people who believe first and foremost in nationhood. In Nigeria, people who don't see tribe, who don't see tongue, who don't see religion, people who don't have biases inherent in our former leaders, people who believe that in the collective more than the individual.
Great. We're done with that. So we're coming to moral fitness. And I think this is the last one for now. You'll come back here a couple of times before before elections, God willing. So on moral fitness, would you declare your assets publicly? And would you mandate your ministers, should in case you are elected, so would you declare everything you own, those in Nigeria and those that you've hidden in safe havens, wherever? That's a joke anyway. Would you declare them, and then would you mandate your ministers or aides to declare their assets publicly? Yes or no?
I will declare my assets. I think the law requires that public officials have to declare their assets, so I don't need to start mandating them to do what the law requires them to do. We'll ensure that the law works when I'm president.
I think you mentioned it briefly earlier on, but I'll still ask anyway. Would you embark on foreign health tourism? And then would your children study abroad, or would all live and die here?
The essence of the Nigerian Patriot Act is that my kids who school overseas right now, they understand that if that is president of Nigeria, that they have to come back to Nigeria.
Fantastic. Now, if you have headache or toothache, you have to go to South Africa to get it removed?
No, everything's going to be done. Everything's going to be done here locally. Incidentally, I'm seeing my local dentist here today.
Wow. Would you adopt a more aggressive? I don't want to use a word in my head, so I'll just say, what's your view on the perks and benefits of the members of the National Assembly?
I think it's a crime. I think it's a crime on Nigerian people. Why I won't speak too strongly about this is because I've seen a few people in there who are speaking about it, who are not happy with it. It's being forced on them. I don't know if they take it, if it's being forced on them, but it's a crime against Nigerian people.
Thank you so much, Itumebi.
Thank you.
Now, if I was an undecided voter, I think you've done pretty well. I will score you reasonably high.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure 70 is A, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how they do the rating these days. I should score you 70. And that's the end of the interview segment. We'll take this short break, and when we come back, I'll give my closing statements. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and here are my closing statements. I believe it is about time Nigeria transits from a potentially great country to one in its truest sense. While Nigeria totters precariously on the brink and lurches from one crisis to the other, there are nations of the world with far less natural and human resources making quantum leap forward, thus defying every negative permutation. The UAE, Israel, Singapore, Taiwan, and the Scandinavia, etc., are all models of well-governed societies. Like I have stated in previous episodes, our problem is essentially a people problem. I didn't just say a leadership problem. The difference is that currently in Nigeria, we have a near total collapse of societal values and norms and have almost regressed to the state of anomy. Sociologists define anomy as the state of normlessness, the state where everyone does as he or she pleases, while the state watches helplessly. In this scenario, I reckon even if we replace all the current set of rulers at every level with a new set, there is a high probability we would have far worse than the current rulers who will lampoon daily. Why? Our society is thoroughly corrupted from the bottom up. There are still a few good men and women among us, though. What then is the way forward? We need to carefully elect a new set of leaders who are willing to return Nigeria to the former days of sanity and strong moral values. No society develops and progresses in an atmosphere of chaos, indiscipline, crimes, and pervasive corruption. We need a president, governors, and National Assembly members who are willing to be good moral examples the rest of Nigeria can imitate, and who are ready to wield the big stick in confronting the many deviant behaviors that has rendered our nation prostrate. I urge the various leading electronic and print media organizations, professional trade associations, and organized labor to collaboratively organize interactive sessions for the various candidates running for offices next year and ask these specific questions based on the above fitness criteria. Civil society organizations and NGOs are also included, such as the platform of the Covenant Church. Now, leadership is serious business and a sacred trust. Only the very best among us must qualify to hold political offices. Only persons with the right attitude and character deserve to be given these onerous responsibilities. Remember, change requires action, and positive change requires positive action. I believe in a new Nigeria, and it is possible. And those are my closing thoughts. Now, that's the program today. Remember to follow me on my different social media handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch this particular video and the others there. Drop your comments also. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.